Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we watch the Sunday morning news show so that you do not have to. I'm Katie Halper.
I'm Aaron Maté. Good Monday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Our website is usefulidiotspodcast.com. Go there to support the show and get bonus content. It's great to start the week with you and some of the worst people on corporate TV. A lot to discuss. And the most important thing, I think, for me to stress is that despite a so-called ceasefire in Gaza, Israel continues to murder people by the dozens. Already, like, we're supposed to have an end to the genocide, but yet every single day Palestinians are being killed by Israel in Gaza with U.S. support. And the only thing they've backed off on was they were going to continue to block all aid, but apparently they've just announced that they're actually going to let some in. So good for Israel for like sticking to the deal. I don't know, like a small percentage of it rather than ignoring all of it, but they're still murdering people in Gaza with U.S. support.
And I would say the genocide hasn't even stopped.
Yeah.
Because this is contributing to genocide.
Sure.
Destroying group in part or in whole. And as you know, we covered this on the interview from last week with Craig McIver and Mourning Rabbani. But as Francesca Albanese says, a ceasefire means Israel fires and Palestinians cease.
Exactly right.
And
there's a long history. It's basically every single agreement going back, I don't know, to like 1948 that Israel has made. They just ignore it ultimately.
Yeah.
Ehud Barak, the former Israeli foreign minister, he has a line that Finkelstein often quotes where he says, like, in some cabinet meeting, this is over a decade ago, he said, after the ceasefire is signed, no one remembers what the deal actually is, like what the terms actually are, which means basically like we can violate like whatever we want. And that's what they're doing today.
Yeah. Also, don't forget to give this a thumbs up, because when you give this a thumbs up, you're giving corporate media a thumbs down, and they're complicit in what Israel's doing. Honestly, so yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of which, let's get to the weekly recap from Meet the Depressed.
Good Sunday morning. Across the country, protesters took to the streets by the millions on Saturday, according to organizers, to take part in the No Kings rallies, speaking out against what they say is President Trump's authoritarian rule. It comes as the president continues testing the boundaries of his executive authority, and Washington remains at a standstill with the government shutdown dragging into its fourth week. All while President Trump has his sights set on foreign policy, planning a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest after a high-stakes White House meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky on Friday. Zelensky's goal was to secure long-range Tomahawk missiles that can strike deep inside Russia. I sat down with President Zelensky on Friday, who told me in an
really quick recaps now on Meet the Depressed. They're really depriving us of material. But yeah, listen, like the Zelensky thing, and we're going to hear more about that.
Yeah.
He really wanted these Tomahawk missiles, and Trump had flirted with it. Trump was like saying, yeah, maybe I'll give it to them. And Trump is recently saying, yeah, I think Ukraine can take back all of its territory. And the reason why he said that was so obvious. We pointed this out at the time. He just saw a good market opportunity that, like, if he encourages Ukraine to keep buying U.S. weapons by saying they can win all their territory, maybe Europe will pay up for it, and weapons makers in the U.S. can make a lot of money. But Trump actually doesn't think Ukraine can win, and he doesn't want to give Ukraine Tomahawks because as much as that would really excite proxy warriors, again, you're in a situation where you have one nuclear power helping to fire long-range weapons at another nuclear power because the Tomahawks need U.S. personnel. So Trump, much to the chagrin of proxy warriors, said no. And bad thing for proxy warriors. I think good thing if you don't want to have Armageddon.
Yeah, Armageddon, armed Armageddon. That's what we should call it when we send them arms. Armageddon.
I mean, they're really putting the arm in in Armageddon.
Right.
With their
you did it better than I did. Yeah.
And look, now Trump wants to meet with Putin in Budapest, and great. I mean, I think it's good. It's better than Biden, who wouldn't like the Biden administration was like, talk to a Russian? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
No, we can't talk to a Russian.
Right.
It's like the Russians had cooties for the Biden administration. But so it's good they're talking, but will Trump want to address the issues that go beyond Ukraine, like arms control, expanding NATO to Russia's borders? That remains to be seen.
Right.
He kind of wants Ukraine to make all the concessions. And, you know, that reflects battlefield reality to a certain extent. But the U.S., I mean, if there's an interest in addressing Russia's grievances, which go beyond Ukraine, they have to do with NATO expansion, weapon systems that threaten Russia, Trump will have to make some decisions there.
Yeah, and also briefly just addressing the No Kings rally. I mean, they're really rallies more than protests, I would say. And the sign of that is that there was very little violence against them.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that more. But it was very, very big. It was huge. Palestinian, like Gaza was not allowed to be included by the organizers as one of the issues, which we'll get to later. But just a heads up about that.
Gaza wasn't allowed to be. I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But I mean, some people mention it, like Mehdi Hassan. He spoke at one of the rallies.
Yeah.
I saw him mention Gaza. So at least some people.
Some did, yeah. But I think the organizers didn't want it to be part of it.
So, like, if you wave a Palestinian flag at a No Kings, are they going to like pull it
No,
down?
they let you. They did let you do that.
Well, that's so nice of them.
Wasn't supposed to be in the messaging about it. Yeah.
That's so nice of them.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the No Kings rally. I was at the No Scrubs rally.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. That's my cause. Just like, I don't want no scrubs. So
yeah,
that's what I was rallying for.
A prez that can't get no votes from me.
Exactly right. Yeah. I don't think the No Scrubs movement had as big a turnout as the No Kings movement, which is,
well, that's because we didn't really do our job publicizing it. So
yeah, it's true.
Next year we'll do it. Yeah, and we'll see. Yeah.
Okay, let's turn to President Trump.
Oh my gosh.
He sat down with, I think the person he probably speaks to the most on corporate TV, Maria Bartiromo.
Yeah.
To talk about his so-called ceasefire in Gaza.
And yet, as soon as you left, Hamas executed 7 people, and then they went on to execute 30 more.
Yeah.
Do you believe they really will disarm?
Well, they promised they would. They said they would. It's down that they would. Now, they said they were gang members, et cetera, But these are very violent people. This is a very violent part of the world. Nobody's seen violence like this. If we have to, we'll disarm
the
them.
U.S.?
Well, whether it's me or the U.S. or it's, a proxy, could be Israel, with our backing, we won't have boots on the ground. There's no reason to.
In the past.
I love that. So we may have to disarm them. And by we, Trump means either himself, the U.S. or Israel. But no boots on the ground. I like the idea of him going in there with like stilettos or something. No boots. I don't know. Hush puppies. But I like the way he's so openly equating Israel and the U.S. We could be him, Israel, or the U.S. One of the three. Yeah.
Or a proxy too. He uses
true.
Which is just so colonial. But I love that. That's how he sees the world, and it's true. He does have proxies, and that's who he would actually send in, the Egyptian army, or because that's who the U.S. funds. Like Egypt receives a lot of money in U.S. military aid to keep it as a proxy.
Right.
But the idea of Trump going in by himself, commando style,
I do like
to take on Hamas. I mean, that's a I'd watch that action movie.
Yeah, me too.
For sure.
I'm not sure. Listen, I don't think he would fare too well, but.
But the question, about Hamas executing people, they're executing people who they say were collaborators with the Israel occupation, and people who are stealing aid and looting it and selling it for huge profits. That's who they claim they were going after. And this is what happens in situations of colonial rule, is like collaborators or alleged collaborators get killed. I mean, if you collaborate with the people who are destroying your territory, your land, that's what happens. And if Trump is going to like turn around now and be surprised at this, it's just like, this is what happens after 2 years of genocide, is like after there's somewhat of an end, or, I mean, if this really is the end of it, this is what happens. Like when people are like retake control. So no one should be surprised.
Also, I mean, regardless of, I think Mourning spoke to this really well, that, there should be trials. I'm not a fan. He's not a fan of extrajudicial justice and executions, but come on. Are we honestly supposed to think that the United States is upset about the execution of Palestinians. We were funding and arming Israel while they were executing them every day.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, it's laughable that we actually think that, oh, we better go back in there, or we better, undo the ceasefire or send in a proxy because we won't sit by while innocent Palestinians are killed.
It's just the hypocrisy. Like, to call it hypocrisy just doesn't even do it justice after we've helped Israel kill tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. And also, by the way, while we're currently executing people on boats in the Caribbean, who are accused of, we say, being drug smugglers, but actually the more evidence comes out, the more these people that are being murdered in the high seas have nothing to do with drug smuggling. And even if they did, they wouldn't deserve to be executed. They deserve to be put on trial. But the problem with that in Gaza is we've destroyed all the infrastructure, and what theoretical court could people even be tried in Gaza were they to be put on trial?
Right. Yeah. It's so laughable. It's kind of like, did you see the story about a literal shark that washed up on the shore in Gaza that people from Gaza ate? I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah.
But, okay. Yeah. Literally, just in terms of the rank least believable hypocrisy ever, the Israeli foreign minister put that up as an example of Palestinian cruelty. That they pretended that they killed the whale. They didn't. It wasn't a whale. It was a shark. It was already on this shore. It was either dead or going to die. Impossible to save it. But imagine if they had killed a whale, which they didn't. The idea that Israel is upset about the life of a whale, but not the people who they've been literally starving.
Yeah, and also just on this narrow topic of like the beach, what happens when Palestinian fishers go out to try to catch fish? They get massacred by Israeli gunboats all the time, and this has been going on for years, like way before October 7th.
Yes.
So look, on any single issue, you can find just endless hypocrisy from Israel and the U.S. Just endless hypocrisy in the most evil, sadistic way.
And also going back to the disarming agreement, they didn't agree. They agreed to the first phase of the deal, right? The release of Israeli and Palestinian hostages, and Israel withdrawing to an agreed upon line, which is still occupying 53% of Gaza. But they haven't agreed to the disarmament part yet.
That is true. They never agreed to disarm.
Yeah.
They've talked about maybe handing over some of their heavier weapons to the extent they even have those, but like light weapons, like guns to defend themselves against invading Israeli soldiers, or God forbid, Israeli settlers, if Israel decides to bring the settlers back to Gaza. No, Hamas has not agreed, because if you look at what's happening in the West Bank, and we're gonna have more on this later in the show, former Useful Idiots guest Jasper Nathaniel, who's an independent journalist, he's in the West Bank. He's just documented another act of terror by settlers against the people there with the Israeli army support. So anyone in Gaza knows what it's like in the occupied West Bank. You think they're going to give up even their light weapons to defend themselves should not only Israeli soldiers come into their communities or what's left of them, but Israeli settlers one day too? I mean, it's a non-starter.
Yeah. But again, it's talk to us about executions when you don't kill like over 30 people on boats.
Okay, here's more Trump talking about his long-term vision for Gaza, which still sounds a lot like ethnic cleansing.
Could be developed, and you said you wanted to develop it.
Well,
Do you have plans for that?
Not me as an individual.
The U.S.
I liked it as like freedom play.
Not me as an individual. I mean, like Steve Witkoff, my Middle East peace envoy, and Jared Kushner, my son-in-law. I mean them and their partners making a lot of money by stealing Palestinian land in Gaza. Not me personally, just my extended family and close business.
He's not gonna, Well, also, he's not going to rebuild it with his own hands, Aaron.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's busy on that solo commando raid fighting Hamas.
Exactly. Right.
So
Right.
He can only do so much. Yes.
Yeah.
Place, you call it Freedom Place, and we would get all of the people.
Great job, Trump. So inventive, calling it the Freedom Place. Like, what? Like he's just taking like freedom fries, which they started calling French fries after France didn't take part in the Iraq War, and he's just like, it's such a lazy term
So
for his
true.
like Gaza dystopia, freedom place. Like,
Yeah.
can you think of? Can you put a little bit more effort into your like apocalyptic vision?
I think he's really good at giving people names when he's criticizing them,
Yeah,
but he doesn't know how to do them in a positive
he
way.
doesn't. No,
Yeah.
exactly.
He needs to work on that.
He
But
loses
sorry.
the enthusiasm.
Exactly.
He's
Yeah.
not mocking someone. He's not insulting someone.
Yeah, he's like phoning it in. Yeah.
It's like,
But
call it the freedom place. Let's just take freedom fries. Take out fries. Add place.
But he actually sounds like a little kid who's like coming up with an idea in real time, and he kind of likes it. Let's just watch him saying that. It's really kind of hilarious.
I liked it as like Freedom Place. You call it Freedom Place. And we would get all of the people that live there into decent homes throughout the region. If you look, Egypt has a lot of land. Jordan has a lot of land, right next door. A lot of countries have a lot of land.
So there you go. He's talking about ethnic cleansing. He's talking
Yeah.
about fulfilling the long-term Zionist vision of pushing Palestinians out.
Yeah.
Ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
Egypt has a lot of land. Jordan has a lot of land. I mean, look, this has been like the racist Zionist talking point going back to 1948. Like, the Arabs have all this land. Like, why do they have to live here? Like, there already is a Palestine state. Jordan,
Right.
Egypt, whatever. Just go there. Totally denying that people have lived there for hundreds and hundreds of years, and this is their land. They have a deep connection to it, unlike the European Jews of Israel, who are colonialists. That's just But so Trump is just trying to fulfill their vision.
Yeah, I like the idea that he's actually a pan-Arabist. That's what it is. That's what he should pretend to be.
Yeah. Okay.
But wait, we have to watch the end of that clip because he says something very interesting.
So I had an initial vision that we would get them. Look at Gaza. I mean, there's nothing standing. The whole thing it's all rubble. So it's not too hard to top that.
So there you go. I mean, as long as it's not rubble, it'll be impressive. He'll have topped the status quo. And I mean, it's true, it's all rubble, but he's just openly turning that into a kind of a point of comparison for his real estate ventures. It's unbelievable.
And just the casual way he can just talk about how Gaza's all rubble, like with a little chuckle,
Right.
as if it's like a throwaway joke, not an entire society that's been destroyed with our support.
Yeah.
And if you think of the expression, like every life is a universe, I mean,
Right.
you can't even fathom how many lives have been destroyed by us. Like this wouldn't have happened without Biden and his refusal to stop the genocide. And then Trump too. I mean, Trump helped Israel break the ceasefire and continue the extermination campaign. And now he can just chuckle about how it's all destroyed.
Right.
Okay. I think we have a little bit more Trump. Yeah. So listen, at this meeting between Trump and Zelensky on Friday, there was a lot of hope on the Ukrainian side that Trump would give Zelensky some Tomahawks, these long-range missiles that can fire even deeper to Russia than Ukraine currently can with other U.S. weapons, including the ATACMS. But it didn't happen, and Trump kind of toyed with Ukraine as he always does. But here he is explaining why ultimately he, at least for so far, he hasn't said yes.
We can't give all of our weapons to Ukraine. We just can't do that. And I've been very good to President Zelensky and to Ukraine, but we can't give, if we're going to be short, I don't want to do that. I can't jeopardize the United States.
Did you get any sense?
So, yeah, I mean, sure. And listen, I think it's a good thing that we're not giving Ukraine long-range missiles to hit Russia. And not because, we'll be short, but because I don't think one nuclear power should be helping another country fire long-range missiles at another nuclear power. I don't know. It raises the threat of escalation, especially since the Tomahawks, which, by the way, if you think about it, it's a really offensive name. And it's kind of like, because that obviously comes from Native American culture, indigenous culture. And it's like we have this culture where we exterminate people and then steal their names. Like you have schools and sports franchises that are named after indigenous nations and tribes, and it's kind of like a German team being the German Yids or the German Jews. you exterminate people and then take their culture. So the tomahawk strikes me as a little bit offensive in it. Anyway, but the tomahawk.
Sorry. Well, it's also relates back to what we were saying, Aaron, about the ceasefire, right? And this is a colonial habit. You just made me think of it. The United States constantly signs agreements with, historically has signed agreements with indigenous people in what we now call the United States, and breaks them. So the whole thing of ceasefires or agreements that are not honored is is part and parcel of settler colonialism, which is of course what we're seeing in Israel as well.
Yeah.
In Palestine.
And the other problem with the so-called tomahawks is they can be nuclear equipped. So it's like if you're Russia and all of a sudden now Ukraine with US help is firing tomahawks at you. Look, I mean, they probably don't think the US would help Ukraine fire nuclear weapons at them, but it's like, why would you want to put anyone in a situation where it's even a possibility when you have the two countries that can destroy the world many times over? So anyway, I'm personally not mourning Trump's decision to not send the tomahawks. And I think the main reason not to do it is for just the sake of avoiding Armageddon.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, how are we doing in likes? Let me just take a look here, guys. We really need, I would love to not have to chastise you mid-show, but we are under half. I know more than half of you are not hate watching, so get those numbers up by the end of the next clip. Thank you very much. All right. What do we got next?
Okay, more Trump. Talking about he spoke to Putin right before he met with Zelensky, and they're planning on meeting in Budapest in the coming weeks.
Sense from Putin that he would be willing or open to the idea of ending this war without taking significant property from Ukraine?
Well, he's going to take something. I mean, they fought, and he has a lot of property. I mean, he's won certain property. If you say that, he's won certain property. We're the only nation that goes in and wins a war and then leaves, like we did under President Bush in the Middle East. We go in, we blast the hell out of everybody, destroy the place, and then we leave, Remember, I used to say, keep the oil.
So, I mean, we do destroy places. I appreciate that honesty. You wouldn't hear like Barack Obama saying that we destroyed the place. Like he'll say like we torture some folks.
Exactly.
Trump's like we destroy the place. But it's not true that we just pack up and leave, because after destroying the place, we establish military bases like we have in Syria, where we still are, and there's still U.S. forces in Iraq, even though the Iraqi parliament voted years ago for U.S. forces to leave.
Right.
And then actually Trump's first administration, Mike Pompeo, he was like, we're not leaving. And if you keep pushing this issue, we're going to seize all your foreign reserves and our banks. That's what the U.S. said to Iraq when they asked us to leave.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all, it's so laughable. And also remember, Trump ran against Bush and the Iraq war.
Yeah.
I guess he just didn't think they took the oil enough.
That sounds to me like his main critique. Yeah, he was not against the war for opposed on the merits of not supporting regime change, but because I guess we didn't take the oil.
Right.
If you're going to invade a country, we got to take the oil.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got to take the oil. And then of course, but he says Putin has won certain property, which is a strange way to refer to Eastern Ukraine, but this does speak to, it looks like Trump is not going to insist on the full expulsion of Russian forces after he recently said that he thinks Ukraine can take all of its land back. So if you're Ukraine, he's really taking you on a roller coaster ride, this guy.
Right.
He keeps changing his mind.
I do love the way he says one certain property, like this is just a real estate move.
I mean, that's really how he sees the world. Yeah.
I mean, but it was seized, right, during a war of aggression. So it's not recognized under international law. Yes,
that's true. I mean, and we're going to actually hear more about that from Zelensky. I mean, I have a bit more of a nuanced point of view, one might say, but let's hear from Zelensky first.
Understand why the leader of the country, which has the biggest territory in the world, they need some more kilometers. That's why I think that this war is not about the land and not about territories for him. It's about our sovereignty and about our independence. And he can get it, how to get different instruments territories, one of the instruments. That's about it. On the battlefield, he's not winning. That's why he really escalates air strikes. And you are right, he using missiles and drones on he wants disaster, energy disaster during this winter by attacking us. Each day, 500 Iranian drones. Each day, 500 Iranian drones and 20-30 missiles. That's why we need air defense and long range. He has to feel what we feel.
That's Zelensky, and his main argument there, which he says at the beginning, is like, I don't understand why Putin feels like he needs more territory. He presides over the largest country on earth, and he's saying, basically that this is a land grab by Russia. And yeah, it is now, because Russia's insisting on taking certain territory, although the exact boundaries seem to be up for discussion between Russia and Ukraine. But the part that all this is missing, and again, this is the problem with corporate media just completely erasing all important context, is like Russia for a long time didn't want Ukrainian territory. They wanted Ukraine to respect the Minsk Accords,
right,
which Ukraine would have kept its territory, except for Crimea. And all they had to do was recognize the autonomous rights of ethnic Russians in the Donbass who had rebelled after there was a coup backed by the U.S. in 2014. And the new coup government was saying to the ethnic Russians, like, you can't speak your language, you can't elect your own judges, and we're going to crack down on your national identity. And so Russia went to war in part to protect them. And now it's saying, after Ukraine rejected the Minsk Accords and then walked away from the Istanbul talks, in which, again, Ukraine would have kept its territory. Now Russia's saying, fine, you didn't want the compromise before, you refused to have the Minsk Accords. We're going to take it now because we want to protect the ethnic Russians of Eastern Ukraine. So that's the reality now. It didn't have to be that way had Ukraine simply been willing to respect the deals it signed on to more than a decade ago.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. I mean, when I said talked about this as a war of aggression, I mean, I very clearly agree with your assessment of it as a war of aggression that he would not have engaged in. I mean, we can't get into his head, but I don't think he would have done this had it not been for the United States provoking him.
Yeah.
So It's not your typical war of aggression. I don't think Putin woke up and was like, I want to take more land. I mean, I see this as a very different thing.
A very quick point. After the 2014 coup, you have two different territories that were under dispute. And you look at the very different reactions by Russia. It tells you what Russia really wanted. So there's Crimea and the Donbass. After the 2014 coup, yes, Russia took Crimea. Why? The vast majority of people there want to be a part of Russia anyway, if you look at U.S. government-funded polls. And B, Crimea hosts Russia's most important naval base. And it was only given to Ukraine as part of an administrative decision in the 1950s under the Soviet Union. So Russia was not, and even U.S. officials recognized that this was just obvious, that Russia was not going to let a coup government take its most important naval base, especially while they're trying to join NATO, which is a hostile military alliance. So Russia took Crimea. But the Donbass was very different. The people, when there was rebellion in the Donbass, they held these referendums, and, you can argue that they were not fair, but the bottom line is the leaders of the breakaway regions of the Donbass, they said, we want to be a part of Russia, and our people have voted to be a part of Russia. And Russia, rather than say, okay, cool, we're going to annex you too, Russia said, no, you should negotiate with the new government in Kyiv. And so Russia rejected the efforts by the leaders of the Donbass rebellion to join Russia. So that tells you that Russia was not trying to grab the Donbass, and they didn't for 10 years up until they finally invaded. And now things are different. And even after they invaded, they were engaged in peace talks that would have basically kept Ukraine's territory intact, except for Crimea. But again, it was Zelensky that walked away from that.
Yes. And right. But this, Aaron, you can't say any of that, because if you say that, then that undermines the narrative that Putin is Hitler, with whom you can't negotiate, which is, by the way, I mean, I've said this before. It's really that's just Holocaust denial to make that comparison.
All right. Let's hear more from Zelensky. And I'm going to fix the glare in my eye as we're listening to him.
Yeah.
Ready.
It's a good metaphor.
Okay. Part of President Trump's success with Israel and Hamas was that he applied pressure to all sides. Does President Trump need to get tougher with President Putin?
Yes, and even more, because Putin is something similar, but more strong than Hamas. It's more bigger war, and he is the second army in the world, and that's why more pressure.
So look how satisfied he is with his face. He's like, I just threaded the needle so well by comparing Putin to Hamas. Now they're going to be forced to intervene. I mean, that is such a, with all due respect, Mr. Zelensky, that is a really stupid comparison. I mean, is he saying that like he just made Trump sound like a freedom fighter?
I mean, yes. I mean, Hamas is definitely not Russia. I think we can all agree on that. And, you know, Russia has nuclear weapons, massive army. Hamas was pretty much, and the people of Gaza were pretty much defenseless against Israel. It is very different. If there's a through line in both crises, it's that the U.S. has blocked a diplomatic settlement in both and used both countries for its own hegemonic ends. Like in the case of Ukraine, the U.S. undermined the Minsk Accords. The U.S. Undermined the Istanbul peace talks. In the case of Palestine, there's a global consensus for a Palestinian state in just 22% of Palestine's stolen homeland. And the U.S. and Israel have stood apart in blocking that. So if you're looking for a through line in these two conflicts, I would point to that.
Yeah, right. And of course, you could compare. I mean, he's not Netanyahu at all. But I mean, in terms of the power differential, he would be Netanyahu, but he can't say that because if he said they were Netanyahu, then that would mean if Putin's Netanyahu, then the U.S. would have to fund, arm, defend, praise him the way they do Netanyahu.
Yeah. Yeah.
So close to Zelensky, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's turn to the domestic front. As we mentioned earlier, there was the nationwide No Kings protests, and Speaker Mike Johnson was not happy with what he saw.
To the shutdown, but just on this notion that these are hate America rallies, and you not only talked about anarchists, Antifa advocates, pro-Hamas wing, and you said this is the modern Democratic Party. But I remember not that long ago what you said after the murder of Charlie Kirk, when you said that we should view fellow Americans not as our enemies, but as our fellow countrymen.
Yeah, I've never called anybody an enemy, but we call out...
Hate America rally or, you know, Antifa, pro-Hamas, that sounds, those are enemies.
Well, there were a lot of hateful messages yesterday. I mean, we have video and photos of pretty violent rhetoric, calling out the president, saying fascists must die and all the rest. I mean, I don't think that's loving speech. I don't think that's friendly speech. And I don't think it's pro-American to say those kinds of things. So it's not about the people, it's about the message, it's about the ideology. And I will stand here every Sunday and talk with you about the dangers of Marxism and socialism and how it's led to the literal death of tens of millions of people in the 20th century alone. It is a dangerous ideology, and it is anti-American. It goes against everything that we...
I mean, first of all, I mean, putting aside the history of Marxism and all that stuff, like, how many actual Marxists you think went to a No Kings rally? Like, if you're an actual Marxist in the U.S., you probably thought that the No Kings rallies were like too liberal for you. You know what I mean? So it's just off. The whole thing is off.
Right. It's you know, luckily, Aaron, we actually have some footage of these hateful signs. And while you grab that up, I have to actually buzz someone in. So just take a look at this one. I mean, look how hateful that is. You want to read that out loud for people?
Well, thank you for forcing me to read these. Okay. For our audio audience, it's a picture of President Trump in a crown. He's grimacing in it, and the sign says, "Does this ass make my country look small?" ? Okay.
So hateful.
So hateful. He's more burger than king. Okay. All right. The only royalty I want to see in this country is drag queens. Okay. Yeah, I like that.
I like that one. Yeah.
I like that.
And here, perhaps this is the most hateful of them
This
all.
is hateful. This is
if
hateful.
Kamala had won, we'd be at brunch. No Kings. And that, of course, would be first gentleman Doug Emhoff.
Taking a break from Soul Cycle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know who the woman with him is. Maybe a Soul Cycle, like, co-attendee.
Yeah. The only time I've ever heard Doug speak when he's not like gushing over how much he loves Israel is talking about how he loves Soul Cycle. That's
You know.
when I think of Doug, I think Soul Cycle, Israel. Soul
Right.
Cycle, Israel.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Israel is like his soul cycling.
Israel's definitely a Soul Cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Mike Johnson. As cringe as maybe Doug Emhoff's sign might be, and that's pretty cringe. Like yes, we'd be at brunch while like Kamala would be helping Israel still commit genocide. I don't know.
Right.
It's not hateful. I'm not going to call that hateful.
No, I mean, it's hateful of Palestinians, but obviously Mike Johnson doesn't care about them. He likes seeing them killed. Yeah.
And again, I just don't think the Marxists are going to No Kings rallies.
No, I don't think the Marxists are going to No Kings rallies or like Antifa. In fact, Wilson, I just sent you a clip. Let me know if you got it. If not, I can play it in my own window. But this is, I think, a sense of some of the people who are at this protest, because take a look at what happened when someone had a Palestine flag. 1 second.
Free Palestine!
You have it.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
We're at the No Kings rally in Washington, D.C. today, and that's important here because a lot of the people here have not been involved in the movement to free Palestine, and they need to hear that message.
Right, this is my fault. I thought this was a video of getting yelled at, which is another video, but it does show you, I think Medea Benjamin is saying how important it is for people to talk about Palestine, which they really weren't. I mean, that's what she's referring to. And she's also calling people out for not caring about Palestine.
All right. Well, let's turn to more of Mike Johnson. He spoke about this whole new Pentagon policy where they tried to get journalists to sign a loyalty pledge where basically we're not going to report anything that the Pentagon doesn't let us report, essentially. And a lot of media outlets, including Fox News, refused to sign it. So here's Mike Johnson.
Ask you what's happened at the Pentagon. Do you have a sense for why the Secretary of Defense seems to be afraid to interact with journalists who cover him?
I mean, reject the premise. There's nothing. Fear is not part of the Secretary of War's makeup.
I mean, the guy's only had 2 briefings since he became Secretary of Defense.
He's very transparent.
And they've basically forced the Pentagon press out of the building unless they would agree to sign a pledge that would make it impossible to be an independent journalist. I can't remember,
and I don't think you can either, a Secretary of Defense who has been so transparent out in the open, talking about priorities, principles.
Oh, I can. I covered the building, and I traveled around the world with Secretaries of Defense. I interviewed them. I questioned them in the briefing room. Other reporters did as well.
But did all those secretaries come out and do public speeches as often as Hegseth does, to be everywhere all the time among the troops?
But I mean, answering questions.
He's restoring.
And of course, you guys haven't brought him up to ask about what's happening in Venezuela.
We're not in session because Chuck Schumer shut the government down, okay? We have a lot of things to do, but I will tell you this about the Secretary of War. We are winning. We are restoring peace through strength. That's one of our core.
This is amazing. So he's saying, of course he's being transparent. I mean, he's being really transparent and he's giving a lot of speeches. Now, speeches are different from taking questions. I think we can all agree. A prepared speech is different from taking questions. But I really want to, I think this is a perfect way to introduce this next clip. Mike Johnson has just bragged about how transparent Pete Hegseth is. And let's take a look at what else Pete Hegseth has imposed right now.
For the first time in decades, CBS News is no longer reporting from inside the Pentagon. Our reporters, alongside those from dozens of networks, newspapers, and wire services, emptied out their booths and workspaces this past week. The journalists exited rather than agree to a 21-page list of new restrictions which would prevent them from soliciting information that has not been pre-approved by the government. The Department of War, as the current administration calls it, has a $1 trillion budget and employs 3 million military and civilian employees. CBS will continue to report from outside the building, but
okay, so this is Mr. Transparent Secretary of War. And that it's bad when CBS is doing this, but you know who else is doing this? Fox News.
Yeah. Look, the problem with the Trump team is they're making it everything too obvious. Like
Okay.
the way journalism usually works is these people go to the Pentagon and no one like orders them what to say. Like no one's like, you have to say this and then this is what they say. What happens is the Pentagon says something and then the journalists write it down. And
Right.
there's an understanding like, we're going to say what you tell us to, but just don't tell us to say it. And the Trump administration is like saying, no, we want to be able to tell you what to say. It's not enough for you just to kind of follow our lead. You have to like formally follow our lead and sign to it. And so people with some dignity and some sense of like just how bad it looks to their audience are not going to sign on to that.
Right.
So the Trump team is really disrupting the whole normal mode of operation, which is just like everyone understands that they're going to write down like what the Pentagon says anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why it's like I have mixed feelings about this. Like good for these organizations for not signing essentially what amounts to a loyalty pledge. But at the same time, does this mean they're not still towing the Pentagon line? No, of course they still are.
What it suggests is that before they weren't doing that. Now, before they were doing it, it just wasn't as overt.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but it is a nice example of seeing the press do something like not totally cave to Trump. But by the way, I do have that. If we want to see this clip of a person actually trying to shame a Palestine protester from attending the No Kings rally, I do have it. It's a minute. We don't have to watch the whole thing, but I think it is like a great example of how this is not an Antifa Marxist crowd.
Whoa! It's about our demand. Don't put your hands on her. You're in a public place. News is just going to take a beautiful picture of this and paint us all as, like we're
pro-humanity, pro-anti-genocide, pro-humanity.
Right, but it's the wrong. You're at the wrong event, dude.
I don't think so.
I'm sorry.
Why do you think this is the wrong message here?
Because this is No Kings. This is about the United States. It's about our democracy. Don't put that thing on. It's about our democracy.
You're in a public place.
Okay, don't put
You're
that
in
on
a public
me. I'm
place.
just saying.
If you don't want to talk to him, but you just went up and yelled at him. Whoa.
Okay, so that shows you, I think, the true character of the No Kings rallies. And I just have to say it's ironic because when she says this is about American democracy, what issue is forcing? I put that in quotes. What issue is forcing Trump to crack down on people's free speech? What issue are we seeing Trump deport people over, violate democracy over? It's over Gaza.
100%.
It's over Palestine.
100%. And also, I mean, what issue is, if you're an elected member of Congress, the most fraught and where people are most vulnerable to being bought out by what are called special interests? It's Israel. Like, look at what AIPAC did to Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. They spent $20 million to oust them. Is that a threat to democracy if like a foreign lobby group could just spend a lot of money to like oust members of Congress who are Democrats, who are in, I presume this lady is a Democrat.
Yes.
So doesn't she care about her own party being threatened by special interests?
Yes.
And their money? But I guess
also, doesn't she care about the fact that, I mean, I'm sure she hates these people and blames them for Trump, but if you're a pragmatist and you care about defeating Trump, what did the people who didn't vote for Kamala but voted for Biden care about the most? It was Gaza.
Yeah.
So if she actually cared about democracy at home, even if she doesn't care about Palestinians, she would get that the Gaza issue needs to actually be incorporated so that Democrats know that they have to incorporate it into their campaigns in order to defeat Trump. Or whoever.
It's just so dispiriting. Like her T-shirt says "resist."
I know.
And that's what she's doing when she sees a Palestinian flag. She's resisting.
Yeah, you're right.
A show of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And again, politically, it's not a winning strategy because Trump, the MAGA people, like, the so-called America Firsters, they have the Israel First crowd. Like, that's them. Look at the polls. Most Democrats are not on board with Israel anymore. And so if you care about democracy, you got to follow your own people's lead.
Right. Did we include Mike Johnson in that clip did mention how we're turning into a socialist Stalinist, right, world. Basically, he was attributing all this death to the communists, right? He did that earlier, right?
He talked about the legacy of Marxism, yes.
Yeah, which is great. He said, I believe that it was 100,000 is how many people that communism has killed, according to him. No, 100,000. Sorry, I'm at the wrong thing. That's the Venezuela thing. But he said that he said that they've killed so many people. And, you know, one thing that's interesting is that no one ever talks about all the people who capitalism has killed, which is countless, and including the blood on his hands. Yeah.
Well, if Mike Johnson and Trump have their way, they're going to kill more people in Venezuela on top of the people who have suffered and died under U.S. sanctions that have destroyed the economy, and the people who are being killed in boats just by extrajudicial U.S. strikes, just assassinations on the seas. There's still talk of the Trump administration going through with regime change in Venezuela, and here's Mike Johnson being asked about that.
We are winning. We are restoring peace through strength. That's one of our core principles.
Don't you have questions for him about Venezuela?
What about
Don't you have questions for him about what's happening in Venezuela? We have this buildup around Venezuela. We have the targeting of these boats. I mean, you must at least have questions about this. I know we have questions.
You have drug cartels bringing in fentanyl in boatloads of it that would kill potentially hundreds of thousands of Americans. What we're doing is restoring.
You have no questions about how they're doing.
No, I believe in peace through strength. I think that the president and the commander-in-chief is in charge of ensuring national security and the safety of the American people. And I think most common sense Americans look at that and say, thank goodness. You take out one boat full of fentanyl, you save hundreds of thousands of American lives. It was the leading cause of.
First of all, the fentanyl is not coming from Colombia, okay? And there's not a shred of evidence for that any of these boats even had fentanyl. The president of Colombia has said that at least one of the victims that the U.S. murdered was a fisher, okay? That's who is being killed, not someone bringing fentanyl, but someone trying to just catch fish, okay? And this whole argument is just, it's so absolutely insane. We can just murder people by claiming they're bringing drugs. Even if they were bringing drugs, what right do we have to murder them? And just to underscore how ridiculous this is, in one of the recent boats that where the U.S. didn't kill everybody on board, that they just kidnap people, they're being expatriated. They're being deported back to their home countries. Now, if the U.S. really believed that these were narco-terrorists, would we be sending them back to their home countries?
Yeah.
You know, rather than putting them on trial? It shows you that the U.S. is capturing and murdering innocent people.
Yeah, it's disgusting. But you know what? I like that you just reminded me of a great connection, because you know how Trump always talks about, or all politicians, sadly, most of them talk about our shared values with Israel, right? Well, that's fair, because we do share values with Israel, because Israel kills fishermen and the United States kills fishermen. Israel kills them in Gaza. We kill them on the high seas, wherever. And, you know, he cites this hundreds of thousands number. And I was trying to figure out where the hell he got that from. So Trump on Sunday gave a speech, and he said every one of these boats is responsible for the death of 25,000 American people and the destruction of families. Probably saved at least 100,000 lives, American lives, Canadian lives, by taking out all the boats coming in, which is insane. Like, he knows that he's made it he's calculated that it's 25,000 people per boat who are being saved.
Oh, it's just it's so cruel. I mean,
It really is. Yeah.
you'd want to laugh at it, but it's just so evil. I mean, he's talking about murdering people in boats for just by claiming that there's something that many of them are not even like. In fact, there's not even a shred. I don't know. Maybe some of them were carrying drugs, but even if they were, we have no right to kill them. That just should be obvious to everybody. Okay.
Disgusting.
Senator Mark Kelly, he has thoughts on what the Trump administration is doing in Venezuela.
10,000 U.S. forces now that are built up in the Caribbean area, either on ships or in Puerto Rico. 3 B-52 bombers flew near Venezuela last week. There have now been 6 maritime strikes by U.S. Special Operations Forces. What is this adding up to? Is the Trump administration planning regime change in Venezuela?
Well, I hope not. Regime change hasn't ever really worked out well for us as a nation, where we've supported that, whether it was in Vietnam, Cuba, Iraq, Afghanistan. It doesn't go the way we think, and it puts a tremendous number of Americans in harm's way, the U.S. military, the guys flying those missions now in B-52s.
Listen to his critique of regime change. He says it hasn't worked out for us. For us. Like, how about for the countries that were targeted by regime change? How about for them? Like, the actual targets of regime change. Like, do they get us at all like a mention here?
No.
Vietnam, for example, where millions of people were killed by the U.S., Iraq, Cuba, which has been under like a decades-long blockade where things are really dire now because we just destroyed the economy and prevented it from functioning. Do they even get a mention, the people of the countries that we're targeting? No, it's all about us.
Right.
It
It's
hasn't
all
worked
about
out.
us.
Hasn't worked. Okay, so that's the critique we're going to get. It hasn't worked. Not that it's illegal. We have no right to do it. It causes massive suffering. We're supposed to not be into we're supposed to respect what's called the rules-based international order, that whole thing, international law. Forget all that.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And he is kind of like the same he and that resist woman that we just saw shaming Code Pink people for having a Palestine flag have a similar ideology, right? Similar outlook. It's all about us. It's not about anything. It's only about the domestic issues, not about the people living in other countries. But you know what it makes me think of, Aaron, is and Wilson, write this down for our compilation, for our album. Reminds me of that Pink song. What about us? What about all the times you said you had the answers? So that's kind of what Mark Kelly is saying. What about us? What about us?
All right. Well, someone with a different take is Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul.
Venezuela, obviously, you've been very focused on this. President Trump has authorized military strikes against suspected drug boats in the Caribbean. As you know, so far, more than 20 people, Senator, have been killed in 6 different strikes. Do you believe that these strikes against these suspected drug boats are legal?
No, they go against all of our tradition. When you kill someone, you should know, if you're not at war, not in a declared war, you really need to know someone's name, at least. You have to accuse them of something. You have to present evidence. So all of these people have been blown up without us knowing their name, without any evidence of a crime. And for decades, if not centuries, when you stop people at sea in international waters or in your own waters, you announce that you're going to board the ship and you're looking for contraband, smuggling, or drugs. This happens every day off of Miami, but we know from Coast Guard statistics that about 25% of the time the Coast Guard boards a ship, there are no drugs. So if our policy now is to blow up every ship we suspect or accuse of drug running, that would be a bizarre world in which 25% of the people might be innocent. The other thing about these speedboats is they're 2,000 miles away from us.
Okay, so that's, I think, a much better response than Mark Kelly's, right? Like, he's actually talking about due process, about not wanting to kill a bunch of innocent people. And that's from a Republican. I mean, that's from a libertarian. You think the Democrats could be better than a libertarian on this issue? The
Libertarians, such an interesting bunch. When you hear them talk about foreign policy, they sound so sensible.
Yeah.
Often. Once you get to domestic, though, whoa, it's a whole different ballgame.
Well, that's when we had Dave Smith. I think we agreed to run as a candidate together. No, we agreed to share the governing as long as with libertarians, but we would do the domestic.
On behalf of all progressives, I formally offered the libertarians full control of foreign policy if they gave us control of domestic policy, which I think is a great deal.
Yeah.
But the libertarians so far have not responded to my humble offer, but we're working on that.
Yeah, we're working on it.
I think their problem is it's under our administration, our joint libertarian progressive administration, we'd still be giving people health care benefits and welfare for low income people. And I think they have a problem with that. So, we're still working that out.
But maybe I mean, if this is our only choice to save the world, maybe they'd be okay knowing that at least there's that Pentagon bloat we could take out. Right. So we'd be able to spend some of that money on the domestic programs they don't care about.
Yeah. But the thing is, they really hate those domestic programs.
I know. But at least I know, but we all have to compromise. Although in this situation, we're not compromising. The progressives aren't. It's just them. So
that's the thing. It's kind of a trick we're pulling on them because we share the same foreign policy anyway, which is anti-war.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I guess I have to go back and read The Art of the Deal and see if I can come up with any better ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's turn to Hakeem Jeffries. The New York mayor's race is coming up. It's in a couple of weeks. The leader of the Democrats in the House, who's from New York, still has not endorsed the Democratic candidate in the mayoral election. It's Zohran Mamdani. And of course, the House leader of Democrats is Hakeem Jeffries. Still has not come around to endorsing Zohran. Let's see if he's any closer.
I want to also ask you, obviously, we're getting closer to that New York mayor's race. You still haven't endorsed Zohran Mamdani, have you?
I have not.
And why is that?
Well, as I've indicated, I expect to have a conversation with him at some point this week in advance of early voting, which begins next weekend in New York City. And we'll certainly have more to say about the mayor's race and about our Democratic nominee prior to early voting beginning.
What is it, though, that has held you back? I mean, usually this is somebody that won a Democratic primary.
What has held you back? Well, actually, it rhymes with the word back.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. What's held me back is AIPAC.
Yeah.
That's what he should be answering, because he loves to rhyme. And that's why Charlemagne the God has dubbed him AIPAC Shakur, which I thought was just such a brilliant name. But what's held me back is AIPAC. That's what he should be answering, honestly.
Also, he's not he needs to read The Art of the Deal, because he doesn't sound like a very effective communicator. He's been in conversations with him for months and he still doesn't know. What does he need to know from Mamdani?
He's been giving this stock answer for months now, like, because he's been asked on all these Sunday shows pretty much every time, hey, how come you haven't endorsed Zohran Mamdani yet? And he's like, we're talking this week. It's happening really, really soon. Like, we're talking, but it never happens. So it's like, what's he going to do? Just keep saying this up until after Election Day? We never got a chance to, we tried to talk, but our schedules didn't align. Sure, we're from like the same state, the same city, the same time zone.
Right, exactly.
It just hasn't happened. Ugh, I'm just so busy.
And he's in Brooklyn. I'm in Brooklyn. He's in Queens.
Exactly.
Represent Queens. She was raised out of Brooklyn.
Yes, he could reappropriate. He could repurpose that LL Cool J line.
Yeah.
That's a good actually tip.
That's what he should just say. That's what he should say. That's why maybe he could just pretend it's a rivalry.
Yeah.
He represents Queens. Yeah, he represents Queens. I was raised out of Brooklyn. My theory is that he's actually a closet Curtis Sliwa fan, and who can blame him?
Well,
that guy's hilarious.
Okay, let's hear more of Hakeem Jeffries not answering the question.
It usually wouldn't be that much of a question whether or not, a congressman from the city of New York, the Democratic leader, would endorse him. What's given you pause?
Well, we've had very good conversations over the last few months in advance of the government shutting down that were forward-looking, that were community-based, that were focused on, in particular, his efforts to make New York City more affordable. That's the right issue to focus on. It's why he decisively won the primary. And I look forward to continuing that conversation next week.
Oh, my God. What is going to be in that conversation? What is he going to find out?
I mean, again, so if the problem is you haven't talked to him, then how is it that you've had all these conversations with him and you still haven't come to a decision? And again, he doesn't answer the question. Like, what, like Jonathan Karl's like, what specifically is it that is holding you back? And he won't answer because the answer is AIPAC. That's what the answer is.
Right. The answer is AIPAC. Or, and then this is Wilson, you'll have to make a clip of this and cut in that LL Cool J.
It's so funny. It's so comical. And again, he represents the old guard, and Zohran Mamdani is where the base is at. And Hakeem Jeffries and all these other Democratic leaders just don't want to go with the base, who are just revolted, repulsed by Israel, and don't want anything to do with it. And again, Zohran Mamdani also talking about affordability and working class people. That has not been the Democratic Party focus. Like, remember Chuck Schumer, like in the 2016 election, being like, for every blue collar voter we lose in Scranton, we'll pick up 3 more in the suburbs of, you know what I mean? So it's like Mamdani represents something different, and they just don't want to go with them.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, again, this must be the longest conversation. It must be so painful.
Very painful.
How do you look forward to continuing? They have had a conversation, right? So he's looking forward to continuing it.
Yeah, it's like,
like a weird time travel thing. Well, for our last clip, we're going to actually take a look at something that happened in the West Bank to Jasper Nathaniel, who was an independent journalist. And we've actually had him on the show. He does really great work in the West Bank. And this weekend, he accompanied some Palestinian farmers in Tumr Sayer to their olive trees for a harvest. And during this coverage, the IDF lured them actually into an area where some settlers then attacked them. So they were allowed through by the IOF, and then a group of settlers ambushed them. And here is the some footage of Jasper filming this and being chased. So he's in black, and you'll see him. He's in the front being chased. That's him in the very front. Those are the settlers running after him, getting into a car. Okay. And now let's look at what happens. He first one, Wilson, it's the first one in this. There are 2 clips.
Hey, what are we? Right behind us. Oh, he's right here. He's right by the smash room. Oh, there he is. Here he is. Get ready. Yeah, there it is.
And you see that you can hear they're like smashing with a bat.
Are the doors locked? Oh, fuck.
Okay, now watch what's about to happen. That's a settler.
Come on, don't fucking hit her! Hey! Oh my god. Hey! Hey!
Okay, that disgusting, cowardly settler. Show the next one, Wilson, in this. That same tweet. These are the people whose deaths we are funding and allowing. And it is a cooperation between the United States and the Israeli government. And this stuff is also the result of a cooperation between the IDF, the so-called IDF or IOF, and settlers. They work hand in hand.
So that woman who was brutally attacked, she was taken to the ICU with brain injuries. Jasper's recently posted that she's now in stable condition,
Right.
which is great news.
She had been in critical.
She had been in critical condition, but it's like, yeah, this is what Palestine. This was the first day of the olive harvest, and this is what Palestinians face every single day: just attacks at the hands of these foreign fanatics.
Right.
Max Blumenthal calls them the Jew Klux Klan. I think it's exactly right.
That's really good.
That's what they are, the Jew Klux Klan. I mean, I think that's the best way to refer to Israel that I've heard so far. They're just a racist entity, capable of the most unspeakable evil. And so kudos to Jasper Nathaniel for being there on the ground to document this. I mean, it's really important what he did. And he's posted some messages that he sent to the U.S. Embassy asking like, hey, can you help? Because I was attacked. People are under threat. And the embassy was like, sorry. Yeah, it's too bad. We wish we could, but we can't. So.
No, you know what they said? It was so ridiculous. They actually said that the host country is responsible for guaranteeing the safety of Americans, which is why we recommend people not go to places like Syria and Venezuela. So you trust Israel? I mean, how many Americans does Israel have to kill?
Yeah.
Rachel Corrie, Shireen Abu Akleh, countless, many more Palestinian Americans we never hear about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but this is the kind of coverage you don't see on the Sunday morning news shows. Right? People actually covering what's happening, for instance, in the West Bank. So
yeah, I mean, again, speak of Sunday morning news shows, Adam Johnson's written about this. The 4 major ones
right.
have not had on a single Palestinian guest in 2 years of genocide, or at least if they have, it's a tiny number. And this is how you manufacture consent. You just completely erase the people being genocided from the airways.
Yeah. And I would say, again, this thing that we just saw in the West Bank is evidence of a slow genocide. It's not the genocide that we've been seeing in Gaza, but it's part of destroying a people in whole or in part, and ethnically cleansing them and trying to kick them off their land. And I just want to say, how do you settlers, you think you're like badass and brave? You literally, in a mask, because you're a coward, ran up to an elderly Palestinian woman. Like, what kind of insecure, sick, sadistic guy does that? Like, you just come off as the most cowardly, not at all macho. I know they love the idea of being these like fierce, the new Israeli, the new Jew. They just look like cowards, absolute cowards. Why don't they pick on someone their own size? Although I don't want them to do that either. Like, I don't want them to pick on a Palestinian their own size. But you know, they come at people with bats. They come at people with guns. If they ever had to fight people the same level that they existed, they would obviously lose.
They're the Jew Klux Klan, as Max Blumenthal says, and I don't know what I mean. Like, it's hard to like the fact that like what you need to know. Like, the bottom line about Israel is like they've used the so-called peace process to expand the number of these fanatics living in Palestinian land, and that tells you everything you need to know about Israel. That even when they were negotiating peace, they were expanding the colonies of these fanatical settlers. So how you find a solution here, it's just it's mind-boggling. But the U.S. of course could make such a difference if things changed, and that's why there's hope now with the election of with the candidacy of Zohar Mamdani and Democrats, the voters turning against Israel. I mean, if we actually had democracy, real democracy here, where the people's will was respected, we actually could maybe see changes in Palestine.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we're going to leave it on that hopeful note. Anything you want to promote, Katie, for the Katie Halper Show?
Let's see. Well, we'll be doing some really interesting interviews. Ghada Karmi, who's a Palestinian physician, actually. She's a real Renaissance woman. She's a novelist. She just wrote a historical fiction novel, but she's also a big one-state solution advocate. And so it's going to be fascinating to speak to her about how people can live with people like that if there is a one-state solution. Yeah. And I'll probably be doing some social media posts, at least from the Gaza Tribunal in Istanbul, that I'm attending this upcoming week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's our show. UsefulIdiotsPodcast.com is our website. Go there to support the show and get bonus content. Thanks so much for watching and listening to Monday Morning. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.